The Minister of Health, Professor Adewole, has assured that the federal government is committed to the general health and well-being of corps members across the country. The minister gave this assurance when he visited the newly built health facility at the National Youth Service Corps Orientation Camp in Osun State. Professor Adewole says to achieve this, President Muhammadu Buhari has instructed that corps members be enrolled in the National Health Insurance Scheme to ensure they are adequately catered for.
Mr. President is committed to the well-being and general health of all corps members, and it was particularly pain when some of them died in Kano. And so he has directed that we should enroll them in the National Health Insurance Scheme, and we are working hard on this. The first thing we did to bridge the gap was to direct all CMDs to offer immediately health care to all corps, and we're doing this. But I'm particularly fascinated about what is on ground here. The first time I'm told that corps members themselves and their officers actually contributed in putting up the clinic. This is unprecedented, and that's why when I was informed, I contacted Alhaji Itola to support them. And having been here today, I'm going to provide additional support in terms of furnishing the clinic for them and making sure that they do well.
So security uncertainty appears to surround a reported attack by suspected Boko Haram insurgents in Zari, a community in northern Borno State located 30 kilometers from the town of Damasak on Nigeria's border with Niger. At least 30 Nigerian soldiers were reported to have been killed in the attack by the insurgents, who were said to have overrun a military base in the area with heavy weapons and engaged soldiers in a battle that lasted for an hour. But in a statement, the army explains that troops of 2 Division Task Force Battalion conducting counter-insurgency operations successfully routed Boko Haram insurgents in an encounter at Zari village. The army adds that the insurgents were on rampage to loot the community and extort money from villagers, but met with fierce resistance by the land troops of Operation Adewole, with support from the air by troops of the Air Task Force. Well, several insurgents were also said to have been killed in the fight, with assorted weapons seized from them. The police have dismissed an operative of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, FSARS, Inspector Charles Omotosho, over alleged extortion. The force's public complaint rapid response unit revealed this in a series of tweets on Friday, 3 months after Omotosho was arrested for the offence. One of the tweets reads, "The Assistant Inspector General Police Zone 2, Lagos AIG Ibrahim Adamu, has reviewed the orderly room proceedings and approved the punishment and dismissal of Charles Olushola Omotosho from the police force." Omotosho was said to be found guilty of the anti-corruption laws of the police. The police also demoted other alleged accomplices of the dismissed inspector from the rank of sergeant to corporal, but whose identities were not disclosed. Omotosho was apprehended in May for allegedly arresting a lady in the Ikorodu area of Lagos State, after which he was said to have forcefully collected the sum of 5,000 naira from her. The Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps in Taraba State have arrested 6 suspected robbers for allegedly stealing prepaid meters in Jalingo, the state capital. Well, the public relations officer for the state command, Mr. Godwin Peters, says the suspects were arrested on a tip-off from residents of the affected housing estate. The Corps explained that the suspects will be prosecuted in due course. Residents of 3 communities in Idato North local government area of Imo State have fled their homes after a landslide caused by heavy rainfall hit the communities. According to the villagers, the affected area is predominantly an agrarian one, and the erosion has prevented them from going to the farms, leaving them displaced. They are appealing to the appropriate authority to come to their aid.
This used to be a major access road linking 3 communities in Idato North local government area of Imo State. And a downcast look on the faces of residents will tell any visitor that all is not well. This is because they have recently become victims of a gully erosion that hit their community. Many of them narrate how their homes have been swallowed by the erosion, which has cut them off their neighbors.
We know they enter this place again because of this erosion. Everything doesn't spoil for here. So we all come out. Even my husband is not well.
During the rain, we just had boom. So when we came out after the rain, the whole thing have just collapsed. If you see this road, it links to Anambra State. It's a major road. So that's why we are calling on federal government to come and help us.
Came from Akokwa down to this place. The flood is too devastating. It's everywhere we have a total devastation. You see, my people, they are all out from this place. We have no other place to go, except where the federal government comes to our aid. That's when we will have relief.
There.
The traditional ruler of the community gives more insight into the situation.
Just almost 2 to 3 villages. Because if you witness there, you can see that they cut off certain people, and they cannot, unless they went through the bush before they can come out and have communication with other villages in the community. It's cut a lot of people. So since then, our people doesn't go cultivation. Agricultural something, you cannot come out from that side to this side again. So it is a very big problem to us.
So what is your call?
Both our economic problems and social problem is there. It's no more working.
But the lawmakers representing the area in the State Assembly say efforts are being made to cushion the effects of the disaster.
We've tried all what we could to make sure that these things are put in check. But this is a natural occurrence that is unbearable. So we are at this point we are urging that the World Bank and some agencies, international agencies, to come to aid, because my people are living like refugees.
Continuous cry and persistent appeal to the appropriate authorities might just hasten up the needed help. But until then, the residents are resolved to work together to find a solution to their present predicament.
Over 300 pharmacies, patent and proprietary medicine shops are said to have been sealed in Bayelsa State by the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria. This is according to the Council's Direct Inspection and Monitoring Department. Well, Mrs. Antonia Aruye says the exercise is in fulfillment of its mandate, and this is to ensure that minimum standards of practice are maintained by all players in the pharmaceutical industry.
The plea for mercy from traders as members of the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria enforce a best practices order in the pharmaceutical sector in Bayelsa State, a measure expected to save the public from the danger of quacks and ensure that the quality and efficacy of medicines are maintained down the distribution lines.
Where is your poison cupboard?
At a pharmacy in Azikoro village, Yenagoa, the state capital, the poison box is left open with unattended and contains substances above the approved sale quantities.
Why did you lock your poison cupboard?
No, the key got spoiled.
But are you a pharmacist?
Yes.
The enforcement officer makes it clear that this is not a witch hunt.
All we are trying to do is to ensure that people do the right thing. But in the event that any of the premises refuse to do the right thing, then we'll seal them off. And when we seal them off, and some of them will encourage them, we still encourage them to do the right thing. But if they still become recalcitrant, then we have no option than to evacuate the drugs to registered premises or to confiscate some of those products.
This scenario played out in many other pharmacies and patent medicine shops, as most drug vendors lock up their shops when alerted about the enforcement team's approach. Nevertheless, the enforcement team is impressed to find pharmacies that meet the requirements.
It's better we know what the rules and regulations before any other thing. So that's why I say I will be waiting for you people. When you come, you tell me what I will do. Not I can't stop this business by now. How many years? I'm over 30 years in this business. How can I be running from one place to another?
The week-long enforcement exercise was followed by this press conference to inform the general public of the outcome.
This is the 28th state that the council is visiting. Various parts of the state were visited during this period. At the end of the exercise, a total of 427 premises comprising of 71 pharmacies and 356 PPMVs were visited. 321 premises were sealed. comprising of 36 pharmacies and 285 patent medicine stores.
The agency advocates the operation of the general public to request for the registration license of pharmacy operators before purchasing medicine from such outlets.
And it's time for some business news. Here's Anne Wilder.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. We begin business news tonight with the latest survey by the Central Bank of Nigeria showing that manufacturing PMI rose for the 17th consecutive month to 57.1 in the month of August from 56.8 recorded in the month of July. According to CBN's Department of Statistics, 13 out of 14 subsectors recorded growth in August, with production level index for the manufacturing sector growing for the 18th consecutive month to 59.3 points, while the index for new orders grew for the 17th consecutive month to 56.9 points. Although the raw materials inventories index expanded for the 17th consecutive month, it grew at a slower rate, and that's when you compare it to its level in July. German automobile manufacturer Volkswagen has signed a memorandum of understanding with the federal government to expand its business in Nigeria and turn the country into West Africa's automotive hub. That's the outcome of the visit of the German Chancellor Angela Merkel to Nigeria just one day after signing an agreement to establish a vehicle assembly and production facility in Ghana. The head of Volkswagen's sub-Saharan region, Thomas Schaffer, signed that agreement on behalf of the German automaker, with Nigeria's Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment, Dr. Okechukwu Enelama, signing on behalf of the federal government. Volkswagen has earlier established its facility in Nigeria between the late 1970s and the 1980s, and it has a functional manufacturing facility in South Africa. It also assembles vehicles in Kenya, Algeria, and Rwanda. The Board of Directors of the United Bank for Africa has announced the appointment of 4 new members to its board, subject to the approval of the Central Bank of Nigeria. These new board members are Mrs. Angela Adebayo, Ms. Angela Aneke, Mr. Abdul Kadir Bello, and Mr. Isaac Fashola. The appointments, which takes effect from August the 30th, follows the retirement of 4 other members from the board. This is coming after UBA's half-year earnings report this week, which showed the bank's resilient performance. And let's take a look at the equities market. It has ended the last trading 5 days in the month of August in the negative territory, with the all-share index down by 1.6% to 34,848.45 as sell pressure continues in value stocks. The lower-than-expected GDP growth figure released within the week sent negative signals to the market, but also news of the Apex Bank's fine on some banks for illegally repatriating funds on behalf of MTN Nigeria contributed to the market's negative sentiment. The industrial goods index recorded the largest loss among all sectoral indices following sell-off of WAPCO shares. The banking and the insurance sectors also closed negative, while gains were posted in the consumer goods and the oil and gas sectors. Market breadth was negative by a slim margin, with 35 losers and 34 gainers. And from there, we move to the interbank market. The overnight lending rate moderated by 109 basis points this week to 6.8%, and when you compare it to the close of last week, which was 7.9%. Declining system liquidity on the back of outflows for retail forex funding led to higher rates at the start of this week. However, yesterday's inflow from OMO maturities boosted liquidity. The central bank has conducted its usual liquidity mopping operations, but no sales were recorded as most market players placed bids above 12.1% stop rate recorded at the previous auctions. But dealers believe that next week's inflows of maturing OMO bills worth 620.5 billion naira and the monthly FACT disbursement are all likely to outweigh outflows, leading to higher liquidity, which of course means that contraction in the overnight lending rate is very likely. To the Treasury bills market, it opened the week on a bullish note, but there was a reversal in the trend following the release of the primary auction results, where stop rates came in higher than expected. With no sales recorded at Thursday's OMO auction, bearish sentiments were tapered at the end of the week, resulting in 5 basis point yield expansion on average to 12.20%. Investor sentiment was negative across the mid and the long ends of the curve, while yields contracted at the short segment. But on Wednesday this week, the CBN allotted 206.95 billion naira worth of bills, comprising 24.9 billion naira of the 91-day, 44.9 billion of the 182-day, and 137 billion naira of the 364-day bills at a stop rate of 11%. Dealers are expecting yields to fall next week. That's Business News Tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu.